Joy class. I am so excited when I look around and see almost every chair filled. This is awesome. So we're happy to have each one of you here this morning and hope you enjoy the class. And we're going to start out by singing a song, and Miss Alice is going to lead us while Miss June plays.
Good morning. 572.
Thank you, ladies. Good singing this morning. We sounded like we were a choir. We could call ourselves the Joy Class Choir. Okay, good to see everybody this morning. It's just all these pretty smiles on your faces. Must have got up everybody on the right side of the bed. Yes, ma'am.
25 people are here today.
25. Awesome. All right, that is awesome. Okay, a few announcements. Widows of Faith at 4 p.m. today, if anybody's interested in going and having fellowship and refreshments and everything. Contact Ronnie if you're interested and need more information. Our fall festival is coming up on October 26th at the North Parking Lot. Candy is needed, so please drop off any donations that you might have in the foyer or the Family Life Center or the office, whichever you can help with. The youth are having a costume party. I thought we ought to crash that. we're just older youth, we could crash that costume party. Anyway, that's coming up for the kids. And celebration of thanks. That's our annual church-wide Thanksgiving meal. The harvest offering will be taken to pay down our debt on the Family Life Center. So if you can, mark a little bit of your income for that. That would help a bunch. And bring a side dish or a dessert and come and enjoy our Thanksgiving meal together. One other little announcement that I have, I'm having a crafts at least. Somebody coined that for me. Crafts at least. Some of the ladies were interested in learning how to make the folded fabric Christmas ornaments. And so at 11 o'clock tomorrow at my house, down here at the End of Success on Farlow, we're going to work on that. And I have 4 spots open. So if anybody's interested in joining us and learning how to make a pretty ornament for your tree, the cost is $10 because I'm putting together the kits. You don't have to bring anything. It's got your pins and your fabric and your styrofoam ball and even a thimble and a measuring thing to measure it. So if you're interested, let me know before our class is over, and I'll put your name on the list. And if there's more that I can handle tomorrow, we'll have another one. So the rest of you can make your little Christmas ornament as well. So just let me know if you're interested in that. Now, is there any other announcements for the class? Okay, Trish.
Alice and I have been talking about the Christmas party at the house. You need to look at your calendars and see what's going to work best with doctor's appointments. Trying to give an early head up so you can make your appointments, whatever you need to do in December.
Okay.
So look at your calendars the next couple of days before next Sunday. She said that normally it's somewhere around the 14th. The 14th is on a Sunday this year. So if you want to do it like that, would be the week before Christmas. If you want to do it earlier than that, be sure and get with Alice or me.
Okay.
What your preferences are. We'll discuss it again next Sunday, so you'll have a week to kind of look at your calendars.
All right, everybody be thinking about that.
It'll be here before you know it.
Yeah.
Do we have any potential dates that we can be looking at?
Well, that's what the 8th is Monday, so that's 2 weeks before Christmas. And then the 15th starts the next week, and that's the week before.
The week of the 8th.
That's the week of the 8th. So look at your calendar, see what day, maybe the week of the 8th, 8th, 9th, 10th, or 11th.
Okay.
Something like that.
Right.
That would give you 2 weeks before Christmas.
Yeah.
But I know there's a lot of appointments that people can't announce.
That'd be great. That way we have a little time this week to think and then finalize it next week. As much as we can finalize, things always change, but
Right.
that's okay. At least we got a plan started. Okay. Anyone else have any announcements that I don't know about? There's a lot I don't know about. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you something. There's somebody here that knows a lot about a lot of things. And that is our own Johnny.
Oh, well, goodness gracious, I don't know if I can live up to knowing a lot about a lot of things. I might know a little about a lot of things, and a lot about 1 or 2 things, but I don't know. Man, it is great to see everybody here this morning. Yes, Jimmy Cream.
We need to pray for Ronnie Niemeyer.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll have prayer requests right after I finish teaching the lesson, okay? So, yeah, let's remember Ronnie and Claudia Niemeyer. But anyway, well, good morning, everybody. Man, it's great to see everybody. And if I do a good job this week or this Sunday morning, be sure to leave me a 5-star rating, okay? If it's not a 5-star, I'll set a 4-4. But anyway, let's start off with a word of prayer this morning. Oh, good morning, Lord. It's great to be here. And Father, as we start to get into your word it's always interesting. We sometimes wonder why things are in the Bible. Have you ever wondered that? Why certain passages are in there? Why certain things are included? I mean, like the census that was taken at the beginning, at the end of Numbers. The census that was taken of the men that were 20 years old and older, and able to fight. Why? I mean, they numbered them by tribe. And Paul tells us that Scripture is good for teaching us, for enlightening us, for disciplining us. And so I always wondered, why sometimes why things are included. And sometimes, when in the book of Numbers, like taking the census, I wonder why that was included. And sometimes I think, sometimes we need to take stock of where we are. And the Lord knows where we are, but sometimes we're not exactly sure where we are we, do we? You ever wonder that? Where am I? Where, not just geographically, but where am I spiritually with you, Lord? And sometimes we need to take stock of where we are. It's good to know what you know. I remember when I was in high school, what is it? A freshman doesn't know what he doesn't know, and a sophomore begins to know that he doesn't know. A junior starts to know what he doesn't know, but a senior knows what he knows, right? And I hope I got that in the right sequence. That's how I remember it. But it's good for us to take stock, okay? And I always looked at a test. When I got 100 back, I said, well, that's great. I knew everything was on there. But sometimes I wonder, I know that everything that was on the test wasn't necessarily what was in the course for that study. And what I always realized when I had a grade short of 100%, and especially if it was like a 60 or 70, I knew then I need to study up. I need to go back and look at what I didn't learn properly. And sometimes in our Christian walk, we need to take that look back at ourselves, and we need to look back, okay, this is where I am. I've done well. Let's take a look at where I've done well. And let's also take a look at where I haven't done well. Because that is where I need to shore up my life. Because what is it? Study to show thyself a workman approved, right? I want to be approved by God in and what I know, and how I put it out there, how I live it out, how I speak it out. And so we get into this last lesson in Numbers. There are some things that God tells Moses to tell the Israelites to do that in our culture today may seem a bit severe or extreme or harsh. But let's remember that there are reasons why God told Abraham to tell the people to do these things. And one thing that we have to realize is God does want to protect us. Sometimes we don't want to be protected, do we? Bring it on, I can take it, right? Well, only to find out, well, no, I couldn't. Okay? But let's get into today's lesson. We know that after last week's lesson with Balaam and his donkey, we know that the Israelites were seduced by the Moabite women into worshiping the pagan god of Baal there at Peor. And then the Baal at Peor, but also included with Baal was Ashtoreth, that goddess of sex, that was important in their orgies to arouse their sexual passions and worship of this god and goddess. We know that they went so far as the men started taking the women into their households to marry them. And God puts a plague upon the people who are worshiping this god. And while Moses and the assembly of the people are there at the tent of meeting, mourning and praying to God, this man walks and takes his Moabite woman into his tent, and Phinehas, the son of grandson of Aaron, the son of Eleazar, takes his spear into that tent and kills them both. And that stops the plague. But before he does that, 24,000 Israelites died that day. God judges idolatry and the worship of idols. And you know, we may not so much as bow down to an idol, but there are idols in America, aren't there? Whether it's materialism, he who has the most toys when he dies wins, right? Wins what? Okay. I mean, is it does he win the debtor's award? I'm in debt up past my nose. I'm drowning in it. Okay. Or we worship money. Or maybe we worship our family. Whatever takes precedence in our lives, what is number one in our life? That's what we worship, isn't it? And so God judges that. We get into this lesson, and God starts giving details of certain things. There's some daughters whose father didn't have any sons. And so his name's going to die out because his family's not going to get any land when they enter into the promised land. So the daughters come up and they say, hey, that's not fair. And Moses, true to being a man of God, goes to God with the problem. Well, there's a lesson in there for Moses. Whenever Moses had a problem, it seemed like he went straight to God with it. Now, he may not, a couple of lessons ago, he may not have always implemented God's answer, but he went to God with the question, and he got an answer to the question. Well, I wish I did that in every circumstance. But God gives him an answer. And then God gives details on the sacrifices that are to be made. And he gives details on the holidays, the spiritual holidays that they are to celebrate. The Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Booths, the Feast of Weeks, and I may have listed them there by different names. But, if you thought that the Levites and the high priest's job was easy, read that passage. Because there are a lot of sacrifices to be made. And if there's animals being sacrificed, there's a lot of cleanup in there. I mean, I was going to go into a little detail there, but it gets a little gory. But there's a lot of cleanup there in there. And then there's the sacrifice of the grain and the wine offerings or the drink offerings. Women I know that y'all know, if y'all bake or if y'all cook, there's cleanup in there. If y'all serve, there's cleanup to be done. And these are the jobs of the high priest and the Levites to do these sacrifices and then to clean up afterwards. You just can't leave that stuff laying around. So anyway, God gives instructions that for Moses to take 12,000 men. 1,000 men from each tribe, and it's time to repay the Midianites for what they did to the Israelites back when they were seducing the Israelite men. They are to kill and destroy the Midianite nation. And while they're doing it, they find Balaam. And Balaam gets executed for his role in what they did, because he's the one who advised them. So as we get into this lesson, one last thing. The Reubenites, the clan of Reuben, Gad, and half of the tribe of Manasseh, they go to Moses and they ask him, can we settle here east of Jordan? It's known as the Transjordan. This land is perfect for grazing cattle and livestock. And Moses misunderstands, but they explain to him that, hey, we will continue in helping our brothers brothers conquered Canaan. But when we get through, we would like, when they get control, we would like to come back and to settle in this land. And Moses gives them permission. And so, let's go ahead and get into it. Moses, Numbers 33, verses 50 through 53 on page 56. And the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. Tell the Israelites, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, you must drive out all the inhabitants of the land before you, destroy all their stone images and cast images, and demolish all their high places. You are to take possession of the land and settle in it because I have given you the land to possess. Boy, he tells Moses when to tell the Israelites, when you cross the Jordan. Not if, but when. There is a certainty to God's promise. He made that promise to Abraham. He confirmed that promise to Isaac. He confirmed that promise to Jacob that their descendants were going to take possession of Canaan, the promised land. When you take possession, when you cross the Jordan into the land, there is a certainty to God's promise. Now, for those of us who believe in God and Jesus Christ and live by faith in Him, that is a great hope, isn't it? But for those who don't believe and don't live in faith in a relationship with Jesus Christ, that can be a source of great terror, can't it? Because there is only one destination for you. That's hell. So it's that promise can be, and not just the promise, but the certainty of it being carried out can be a source of great hope or a source of great fear, depending on which side of the fence you're on. But when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, I wonder if Moses could see Jericho from where they were standing, because it's just across the Jordan River. Could he see Jericho? When we're on Beltway 8 heading south, or whichever direction we're heading, you can see Houston. I can't see it from here, but when you get to a certain point, you can see Houston. On a clear day, you can almost see forever, can't you? I wonder if he could see Jericho, knowing that that's across the Jordan. That's a promised land that he will not be able to enter because of his disobedience. Moses is the last one of this generation, the last one. And I got to hand it to Moses. Even when he knew that he wasn't going to be allowed to enter into the promised land, he was faithful in carrying out his duty to God and to the people of Israel. He carried out his duty to lead them. He carried out his duty to take God's word as given to him and speak to the Israelites, to lead them and guide them. He was faithful to the end. That's something that we can, he finished strong, didn't he? Moses finished strong. And I would like to follow that example. I would like to follow that example of Peter and Paul. Even in their moments of weakness, in their moments of failure, they didn't let that impede them. They finished strong. And John Meese wants to finish strong. And I hope that you too. And he gives them a directive. When you cross the Jordan into the land, you must. There is no you should or you ought to. You must drive out all the inhabitants. That drive out, you know what that means? That means you must dispossess them. You must expel them. You must drive them out completely from the land. You must destroy all their stone images and cast images. Their idols, you must destroy them. You must demolish. You must raze it to the ground, level it, obliterated from existence. God is telling them, you've got to destroy what they worship. You've got to destroy where they worship. I want you to make a clean slate of this country. Yeah, geographically it's going to look the same, but culturally, spiritually, it's going to be totally different if you do what I tell you to do. You must do this. No ifs, ands, or buts. You must do this. Why did he tell them to do this? Like I said before, he really wants to protect his children. I mean, the Israelites have already shown a natural inclination to sin and worship other gods, haven't they? I mean, they were no sooner out of Egypt than they had Aaron make them a golden calf to worship after 40 days when Moses was up on the mountain. They showed how susceptible they are to temptation by the Moabite women seducing them into worshiping this false god, Baal and Ashtoreth. But it's also not just to protect his children, but you know what? This is about punishment also. Remember, let me see. I should have highlighted this. Here we go. Hey, God sent me right to it. Genesis 15:13 through 16. God says to Abraham, and this is, when he's making that covenant with Abraham, and Abraham has killed animals and split them in half, and Moses sees the burning pot and the fire go between those two sets of animals, and that is God swearing by himself to carry out this promise. In Genesis 15 through 13 through 16, God says to Abraham, know this for certain. Your offspring will be resident aliens for 400 years in a land that does not belong to them and will be enslaved and oppressed. However, I will judge the nation they serve, and afterward they will go out with many possessions. And that came true, didn't it? That promise came true. But you will go to your talking to Abraham, but you will go to your ancestors in peace and be married at a good old age. In the fourth generation, they, your descendants, will return here to Canaan, for the iniquity of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. God gave the Canaanites, Amalekites, Amorites, Hittites, whatever have you, 400 years to repent. He kept the Israelites in slavery and suffering for 400 years to allow these nations to repent. And they would not. God says it's time to drive them out. This is their punishment. It's time for you to occupy the land. This is their punishment. Yes, they built it. They grew the vineyards. They grew the fields. But it's going to be yours. You have to drive them out. And what does he say? You are to take possession of the land and settle in it because I have given you the land to possess. This is their gift. This is their receipt of the gift of the promise of God. This is their inheritance. Let's go to Numbers 33, Numbers 33, 54 through 56. Page 68 of your guides. He says, you are to receive the land as an inheritance by lot according to your clans. Increase the inheritance for a large clan and decrease it for a small one. Whatever place the lot indicates for someone will be his. You will receive an inheritance according to your ancestral tribes. But if you don't drive out the inhabitants of the land before you, those you allow to remain will become barbs for your eyes and thorns for your sides. They will harass you in the land where you will live. And what I have planned to do to them, I will do to you. This land is their inheritance. Have you ever received an inheritance? It's basically a gift, isn't it? And I know that some people say, well, I worked for that inheritance, okay? But the fact is, it's a gift. And you can't earn a gift no matter how hard you work. You may think you have, but that gift is the decision of the one who has possession of it, that inheritance. And you might be irritated because of the size of the inheritance somebody else got. They didn't deserve that. I deserve that. Did you ever think that? All right, maybe you know somebody who did. They got really irritated. I didn't get a thing out of that, and I did more than for that old man or that old woman than anybody else ever did. But God's saying this is your inheritance by lot, according to your plans. Now, we know what by lot means, doesn't it? It's basically throwing the dice, isn't it? Now, in our culture today, that would mean it's pretty much left up to chance, doesn't it? But in Proverbs 16:33, it says, the lot is cast into the lap, but its every decision is from the Lord. These Israelites trusted that whatever the lot came out, that was God's decision. And he says that, increase the inheritance for a large clan and decrease it for a small one. But whatever place the lot indicates for someone will be his. Whatever you receive by lot, that is my decision for you. God is actively making the decision for them in the lot. So if you don't think you got a fair inheritance, go complain to God. Okay? That's what he's basically saying. You want to complain about it? Come to me. Don't go to Moses or anybody else. You can come to me and we'll talk about it. I think I convinced you. Maybe not. But, and the guy, and I'm sure that came up, what about this? And he says, you will receive this. And he gives them a promise or a warning, if you will. He gives, maybe it is a promise. But if you don't drive out the inhabitants of the land before you, those you were allowed to remain will become barbs for your eyes and thorns for your side. Boy, barbs and thorns, they're such small things, aren't they? I remember one time I got a splinter in my finger. And it hurt for a little while, but after a while, it didn't hurt anymore. And again, it got under my skin, and I just became unaware of it finally. But you know what happened? It got infected. And then it started hurting really bad. And I realized, you know what? I'm going to have to dig that thing out. It would have been so much easier if I'd gotten it out the first time, huh? Maybe dug a little, maybe I would have had to do a little digging. But I was lazy. It won't bother me. I can tell you one thing. I had a piece of glass in my foot I stepped on, and I'd forgotten about it. It had gotten in the ball of my foot, and the skin covered up, and I was walking on it. I walked for years with that piece of glass in my foot, just a little chink of glass, maybe about that big. But one day, it started hurting. And so it started with an itch first. I started scratching it, and next thing I know, I'm peeling skin away. And I was, what in the world is that? And I finally got to a point, and I dug that thing out. I had forgotten all about it. But here it was years later that I actually found it. And I threw it away. But it was funny to me that thing took so long, and it got to be an irritant, and it got to where it was painful to walk on that foot. God is telling them, you let these people stay here. Those people you don't drive out, they're going to become barbs for your eyes. And that can lead to blindness. And you know what? That's true. If you allow sin to stay in your life, you can actually become blind to it, can't you? You can become insensitive to it. Or it becomes a thorn in your side. And it can get infected. And it can become not just painful. If it gets infected, it can become life-threatening. And it can prove to be fatal if you don't deal with it. be life-threatening to us. And God is telling them, you have to do this. This is something you must do. And the people have already shown their susceptibility to sin, and he's saying, hey, you need to do this, because if you don't, it's going to threaten our relationship. He said, if you don't, they will oppress you. And we know the history of Israel, don't we? We know that they were oppressed by Midianites. Remember the story of Gideon? He's actually trying to thresh his wheat in a cave where there's no wind, because he's trying to keep his food from the Midianites, who would come in and just raid their places of all the food and whatever else they had. The Philistines, these were people that, these were people that actually threatened to blot them out on the face of the earth because they didn't drive them out. And I think that these problems we have today are because of that situation where they didn't do what God told them to do. And if they could see into the future and maybe see what they had, what a result of their inaction would be leading to, maybe they would have been more forthcoming. I don't know. I remember the story of Hezekiah. When he became well, he pleaded with God for his life and to remember what he had done, and God told him, "Okay, you're going to be healed." He told Isaiah. Isaiah let him know the news, and Isaiah hadn't even gotten out of the court before God relented and changed his mind and told Isaiah to go back and tell Hezekiah he's going to live. And remember, Hezekiah, Babylon sent some people, some royalty and some leaders to him to congratulate him on recovering so rapidly. And he showed them the gold and silver in the temple. And Isaiah went to him and said, "What have you done?" He says, "These people are going to come back and literally take this stuff out of the temple." And Hezekiah's question is it going to happen in my lifetime? Well, no. Okay, I'm good with it. Really, that's basically his response. As long as it doesn't occur in my lifetime, let's kick the can down the road. So I wonder if maybe they could have seen the future where they've done a better job. I don't know. But God does tell them what I had planned to do to them, and my plan was to drive them out, and I was commissioning you to do it. What I had planned to do to them, I'll do to you. God did it, didn't he? The Assyrians were the first to take out the northern kingdom, and then the Babylonians took out the southern kingdom. God drove the Israelites out because they were worshiping false gods, and the way they treated people wasn't that much different from the way the pagans were treating the people there at the time. That's why God's, sometimes things in our lives seem so petty, don't they? But if we let them fester, and we don't attend to it, and we don't take those things out of our lives, they grow to a point where they can destroy us. Let me finish up the lesson here. I'm running a little bit out of time. Numbers 34, 13 through 15. Page 69. So Moses commanded the Israelites, "This is the land you are to receive by lot as an inheritance, which the Lord commanded to be given to the 9.5 tribes. For the tribe of Reuben's descendants and the tribe of Gad's descendants have received their inheritance according to their ancestral families, and half the tribe of Manasseh has received its inheritance. The 2.5 tribes have received their inheritance across the Jordan, east of Jericho, toward the sunrise." Now, this is, I guess, as the people are finding out this information, maybe they didn't know that the Reubenites and Gadites and Manassites had requested that they be allowed to settle in the land east of Jordan. And this is one of these, passages. I wonder, why is this included in there? Because it's an explanation, I guess, to the people. Hey, some of your brothers are going to stay here on the east side of Jordan while we go into the promised land. And that is a good question. East east of the Jordan River is not the promised land, is it? The promised land is west of the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. The Reubenites, the Gadites, and the Manassites who settled there, I mean, what did they see? They saw that it was good for grazing their cattle and their livestock, right? They saw with their eyes. Seeing is not faith, is it? I know this is speculation, okay? But I do know this, that when the Syrians came as to judge and punish the Israelites for the northern kingdom, for their lack of following God and worshiping false idols, these Reubenites, Gadites, and Manassites were the first ones to get exiled by the Assyrians. And remember, the Assyrians would take the people and they would just disperse them throughout the empire, scatter them to the four winds. And then they would bring in a whole new set of people, whole new set of Gentiles, and they would settle that land with them. And later, a little later, the Assyrians took the rest of the northern kingdom and dispersed them in the same way. You know, as good as that land was, I wonder what God had in store for them west of the Jordan River. We'll never know. Because sometimes God allows us to settle for second best, doesn't he? Because of our hardness of hearts and our stubbornness. God gives us what we want. Many times it's to our own detriment. I don't wonder what would have happened to the Reubenites, Gadites, and Manassites if they had gone ahead with their brothers and settled into the promised land, gotten their portion as God would have wanted them to have. And really, you know, after Joshua, when they're released from their oath, they're allowed to go back and settle the land east of the Jordan River. You don't really hear a lot out of those tribes. So sometimes I wonder, what has John and me settled for? What have I settled for in my life that wasn't God's best? What have I missed out on? That's when I take stock of where I am. And I ask God to reveal to me, where do I need to grow? Where do I need to grow stronger? Where do I need to follow you better? On page 72, or apply the text, says number 1, following God often requires believers to remove potential distractions. You know? And a lot of those times is remove potential temptations, right? Believers can expect to encounter challenges while following God. God didn't tell them it would be easy, but he gave them the command, drive out these people, smash, destroy their idols, their cast images, and smash and destroy and obliterate the places where they worship. But while we're doing this, while we're carrying out God's will, we can trust God to keep his promises, can't we? Let's go to a word of prayer. Father God, thank you so much for your word to us this morning. Father, help us always to keep our eye on you, to follow you wherever you would lead us. Abraham did it when you told him to pick up and go to a land that you would show him. He didn't even know where he was going, but he followed you, Lord, in faith. Father, sometimes we falter like Abraham, but if we follow you, we will find your best for us, won't we? Father, help us to remain true and loyal to you and faithful. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
they didn't hear us while we were screaming, I'm sorry. Okay.
Think about this. In a society that has you counting money, pounds, calories, steps, be a rebel. Be a rebel and count your blessings instead. I like that. I saw that, I thought, that's neat. All right, we're going to go to our prayer focus here. Everybody take a look at it. There's a lot of names on here that we're praying for, continuing each day to pray for, and we can see results. God is blessing in all of our lives in some way. So just continue praying. We want to remember Ken Colson and Dorothy, both in rehab, and keep them in our prayers every day. We want to remember Pastor Mike's mom. I understand that they were traveling and got word that she was in the hospital in ICU. And so they've gone to be with her, and pray that God will take care of her and them. They will be okay. Larry continues to resumed his radiation this week. They had to stay off of it while he was having the surgery on his neck, but he's doing well. He's had a little bit of speech difficulty. Some words are harder for him to pronounce than others.